Hey, what is up, y'all? Welcome back to another reaction. So I came across this video I want to react to. It is titled The Fall of WWE Music. What happened? That is the title. So y'all already know we are going to hop straight into this video because I want to know what happened. So let's watch. Shout out to you.
Music makes you feel something. Doesn't matter what artist you listen to, what genre you like, or when it's from. Music is everywhere and it plays a huge part in how we're feeling in our everyday life. In the WWE, music can make or break a character. It's a huge part of the atmosphere of the show. The opening notes of a wrestler's theme could send chills down your spine as you wait in anticipation. It can add value to a story underneath a great promo package, build anticipation for an upcoming match or final goodbye. There's so many ways in which music is important to wrestling.
Can definitely change the vibe.
I'm about to play.
When that shit hit unexpected.
All those sounds I just played for you, you associate a name to a face immediately within about 2 seconds of the song starting. When you hear a theme for the first time, especially for fans who may be newer, within the first 10 to 15 seconds, it has the ability to draw you into the character because of a distinct and memorable sound, or because of that same sound you turn off altogether and could care about anything else. Come to today's music, and it's just lacking an emotional purpose. There's no distinction between themes. The individuality is gone. Wrestling themes used to have a purpose, and now the purpose is just to have a track playing while someone enters because that's the norm. Over the last little bit, WWE's popularity in music as well as their in-house theme production has greatly declined. In recent years, their music has really lost a lot of what made it special. Now there's random instrumentals, weird beats which sound like they've been pulled from the YouTube royalty-free music library, basically the same sound for a majority of the roster, and a general step back in production quality. They've strayed completely away from collaborating with bands and wrestlers as well as licensing outside music. The days of Johnston seemingly giving the most random wrestlers a unique theme are gone. CFOs music has also been phased out to add to that. WWE music overall is just not what it used to be. So we're gonna look at what happened, the rise of theme music, the men behind it, and WWE's insane music library that some people may not have even heard of. For 30 years, WWE music was a machine of consistently crafting hit after hit with mainstream artists and so much more. And things began in the perfectly named rock and wrestling era. As crazy as it is, the reason that WWF went mainstream was because of music and the musician Cyndi Lauper. Lauper had a song called Girls Just Wanna Have Fun, and she met WWF manager Lou Albano on a plane. When the time came to put the music video together, she knew that Albano had to be in there. Perfectly enough, Lauper hammerlocked him in the video. Well, there was also a Piper's Pit segment where Lauper appeared and began a storyline with him, and this moment blew up because of Entertainment Tonight's coverage of it. Lauper's music was providing big-time hits for MTV, and her record label saw a WWF and MTV collaboration as huge. Both music and pro wrestling had been in existence and popular for a long while, but the partnership of MTV and WWF took things to a whole new level. The network themselves wanted to go beyond just music because they didn't get too much money for playing these videos, and it was oftentimes a repeat cycle, so they turned to broadcasting pro wrestling. MTV agreed to air the first WWF special called The Brawl to end it all, and it was a massive success for them, becoming the highest rated broadcast for them ever up until that point. Following the war to settle the score, Vince McMahon launched a concept that we all know today as one of the biggest events in entertainment, and that is WrestleMania. This show was filled with celebrity cameos, and it launched WWF and Hulk Hogan into a different stratosphere. Hogan, of course, the first true North American megastar and face of the WWF. January 23rd, 1984 is widely credited as the day that Hulkamania was born. Wrestling started to take over and Hulk Hogan was everywhere. Vince McMahon had this idea to change wrestling. He wanted it to be this colorful spectacle. After his appearance in Rocky III, Hogan was riding a wave of popularity, and the music collaboration only helped further it. Out of it, he got his own Saturday morning cartoon called Hulk Hogan's Rockin' Wrestling. Hogan even went to the 85 Grammy Awards as Lauper's bodyguard. The partnership helped WWF become prominent, which is what Vince wanted as he saw the incoming explosion of cable television. The allure to see larger-than-life heroes cross over with a who's who in the music world propelled WWF into the mainstream. Animated series, interviews, cameos became the norm, but music became bigger for the WWF. In 1985, they released their first album called The Wrestling Album. In here was a song called Real American, which actually wasn't even intended for Hulk Hogan. His track on the CD is literally named Hulk Hogan's theme. That one was eventually used for his cartoon, and Rick Derringer's theme became Hogan's. With their connections to mainstream artists, it helped the album sell well enough to get a sequel. For their second album, Vince wanted to build on the success, but with more original music and less cover songs. Gorgeous George is generally credited as the first wrestler to use entrance music as early as the 1950s, though Sergeant Slaughter takes credit saying that he was the one who suggested it to Vince McMahon. And pretty soon after that, every act started to have music. Originally, they used music like Eye the Tiger and Another One Bites the Dust, but because of how expensive licensing fees were, Vince McMahon wanted to move the production to in-house. In came two men who are responsible for some of the most iconic theme songs ever. Two men who some may not even know because of the popularity of Jim Johnston, who we'll get to in a bit, and that's JJ Maguire and Jimmy Hart. Jimmy Hart had success in the band The Gentrys, and when he got involved in wrestling, his love of music came with it, this time writing entrance themes. Along with him, JJ Maguire was widely credited as the original master of the theme song.
So
These guys created Sexy Boy, All About the Money, Dusty Rhodes' American Dream, the Legion of Doom's theme, Bret Hart, and the Honky Tonk Band, among others. These two had catchy hooks, they were diverse in their style, and they had the ability to bring the character to life. The dynamic was that JJ Maguire wrote the music, played the instruments, and arranged the song. Jimmy Hart did the vocals and worked on the lyrics, many saying that he had the golden ear and understood how to correlate themes with characters on screen. With theme music, WWF became less sport and more entertainment. The matches quickened and the music gave it that vibe. Now everything was being produced in-house, and A, Vince McMahon was making money, and B, they didn't have to pay those huge licensing fees anymore. Hart and Maguire alongside Hulk Hogan were part of the wrestling boot band, in which Hulk Hogan released a full CD and even had a rap song to his name.
Want to be a Hulkamaniac? I can sure tell you how to stay on track.
No, please. Oh God.
This only helped grow his name. Following the release of Pile Driver, the wrestling album, WWE created a third one, which was called WrestleMania the Album, and this one was co-produced by Simon Cowell. The focus changed from having wrestlers sing music to just selling compilations of theme songs. As the company moved away from the New Generation era, they hit their peak popularity and would not only produce what's seen as their best programming, but began an insane 15-year stretch of continued success in music. This began in the Attitude Era, the most profitable and popular time frame for the WWF. Add to that two mainstream megastars in The Rock and Stone Cold, and the possibilities were endless. By the 1990s, gangster rap had spread across the world, and even though rock was still a bigger genre, the swearing and eccentric nature of the medium was what many thought was cool. Well, couple that with the Attitude Era, which was all antics and mayhem, and you have a winning formula. Hip-hop in the WWE goes as far back as 1989 when Run DMC performed at WrestleMania.
It goes together so well.
Also during the 90s, Jim Johnston took over as the main guy creating entrance music for the WWE. In a time where CDs were all the rage, WWE fully leaned into this, collaborating and producing compilations that helped them grow their viewership in the mainstream as well as make the money behind it. WWE understood how valuable their brand had been since the late 90s, and they started to put more resources into music as the company became a pop culture phenomenon. So SmackDown Records was founded in 1999 by the WWF. Under this name, they distributed everything from compilations of wrestlers' theme songs to unreleased cuts of music, unheard music, collaborations with other artists, and even some single projects. Most of their releases have been distributed by Columbia Music, and from 1999 to 2010, they released an album pretty much every year before they moved their focus to just releasing singles. And in the late 90s and early 2000s, they had huge success and a discography that we need to take a look at. WWF Full Metal was their first real success. Following that, in 2000, the company teamed up with Priority Records to drop WWF Aggression, and this had some of the biggest names in the rap game collaborate with WWE superstars. They created alternate themes, some of which were extremely well done. This was Jim Johnston's first big hit album. It featured Snoop Dogg, Kool Keith, Method Man, and Run DMC. Since WWE was so popular and they knew people who made music videos, wrestlers also got their own music videos to accompany the custom tracks.
niggas come back, laying down the smack on you monkey crap candy coated acts.
These videos had their own premieres on MTV after Raw is War, most notably The Rock's Know Your Role and The Kings for DX. Method Man in Know Your Role was able to get all of Rock's expressions into the song perfectly. For its target audience, it worked. The perfect culmination of a very popular genre of music and a form of entertainment that you couldn't go anywhere without seeing in the WWF. The cash was flowing in. WWE's albums and collaborations made it into the Billboard Top 200 quite a few times. For those unfamiliar, that gives you an idea of the most streamed, bought, and downloaded albums in the US. Their first success was WWF The Music Volume 3, which peaked at number 10 in 1999, going platinum. A platinum certification indicates that the album sold 1 million units, while gold is 500,000. This is done by the RIAA, which is the Recording Industry Association of America. The follow-up to that album, Volume 4, debuted at number 4 later in the same year, and it went platinum as well, with both of these selling over 1 million copies as of 2002. I already touched on WWF Aggression. That one debuted at number 8 and it went gold. By the time 2001 came around, it was another hit for WWE and Jim Johnston, producing WWF The Music Volume 5. It sold 176,000 copies its first week, also going gold and peaking at number 2 on the Billboard Top 200. But you know how I talked about WWF Aggression? Well, that was a collaboration between the WWF and hip hop. Now they did the same thing, but they put a metal and rock spin on it. This one titled WWF Forcible Entry. This featured Disturbed, Finger 11, Our Lady Peace, and it did really well. 145,000 copies in week 1 and another gold certification. This also became the 4th straight album to debut in the top 10 for the company and featured what would be the intros for Raw and SmackDown with Across the Nation.
I did not know any of this. This is crazy.
Aside from that, the rollout of fan love songs was underway. Vince McMahon's No Chance, Drowning Pool,
y'all got any of these albums?
H's The Game, Slow
I know
Chemical,
somebody out there has
Break the
one of these
Walls
albums.
were all
Probably
featured
all
on
of
that CD. I showed these numbers because it's important to see just how prominent WWE's albums were. They sold, they collaborated with well-known bands and musicians. They were able to create individual themes for many on the roster, and from here things kind of started to go downhill, but not before a little bit more success. Anthology did really well, getting to 13 and going platinum just 10 days after release. WWE Originals in 2004 didn't get any certification but reached 12 on the charts. If you haven't checked this one out, I'd recommend giving the Kurt Angle song a listen. The thought of Kurt Angle in a studio belting out I Don't Suck will never fail to make me laugh.
No. Oh no.
The success from here tailed off. Theme Addict peaked at number 38 and then Reckless
I don't want to hear
Intent
that.
debuted at 8. This album had Nicki Minaj in it, who was part of Victoria's song before she really blew up.
What?
As far as WWE's discography goes, they have 4 gold certifications and 3 platinums in the US. But there's one man that I gotta quickly talk about, and that's the brief but memorable hip-hop career of John Cena. As far as a WWE wrestler goes anyways. We started this video in the 1980s, now we're in 2005. For Cena, he had a genuine love of hip-hop music, and his character on TV reflected that. By 2005, he released his debut studio album, You Can't See Me, under Columbia Records. This debuted at 15 on the Billboard Top 200, went platinum, and sold 143,000 copies in its first week. For Cena, he'd gotten some mainstream recognition, even rapped on some commercials, but his popularity as far as the mainstream goes didn't really take off like WWE would have hoped. By the time the album dropped, he shifted away from the character, and that's not a knock on him. Being a platinum-selling wrestler-rapper is an insane feat, but if you go back and look at the calculated approach that WWE were taking with Cena, it didn't work out. The releases continued but slowly fizzled out following WWE The Music Volume 7. WWE Music Group had also put out Uncaged albums, which consisted of classic Jim Johnston songs that had never been officially released to the public. The last one of these releases came in February of 2021. At this point, we're in the mid-2000s, and there was so much music, so much collaboration. You had albums dropping, unreleased cuts. They were licensing themes like Metalingus and No More Words. Each song had different artists and a unique tone and feel. The Ruthless Aggression era was where Jim Johnston got to shine. Jim Johnston is the composition guru behind some of the greatest soundtracks in the company's history. That rundown on music I talked
That's
about,
cool
he produced
glasses.
and wrote a majority of them, sitting down and carefully crafting music that's representative of the character and beats which have landed in everyday playlists even today. Jim Johnston's ability to think deeper than the character is something truly magical, and it doesn't take much to see that. He said that he looked at theme music as a dance. You can have a great theme, but if the guy can't dance to it, you're dead in the water. Johnston was able to curate a sound that made its way into the mainstream and transcended the business. In his time with the WWE, he created over 10,000 pieces of music, had multiple platinum selling albums, but most importantly, created the soundtrack to many's childhood. He was the guy who was responsible for the peak of wrestling entrance music. Some of his biggest successes are Vince McMahon's No Chance in Hell, Stone Cold's I Won't Do What You Tell Me with the iconic Glass Shatter, of course, Randy Orton's Voices, which was written and composed by Johnston but sang by Rev 3. Before that, Burning My Light with Mercy Drive. Orton hated it. I personally love it. The Rock's Electrifying, Brock Lesnar's Next Big Thing, Undertaker's Rest in Peace, Kurt Angle's Metal, The Brood's theme, which is fantastic, Ultimate Warrior's theme. There's so many hits he created during the late 90s, well into the 2010s, that we could make a 25-minute video on it, no
That's
problem.
crazy.
In his music, he created emotion and perfectly tailored the music to the character, adding storytelling into the fold and not forgetting about the stylistic elements either. Brock Lesnar's gave you a hard metal beat, and the riff at the beginning signaled
and they all sound
that
unique.
something was about to go down. Batista's of a cold-blooded killer who was a loner, walking alone to
Nothing
victory.
sounds copy and
Randy
paste,
Orton
you
had
know?
Burning My Light, and that makes complete sense. You have this young kid, he's cocky, he's a maniac, he's better than everyone. And the lyrics represented that. Like, I'm not here to play, you're gonna watch me kick ass and pass you by. There's a clip of how Randy Orton's theme came together, and he talks about Orton being a quieter character. He says Orton's a character that's just mad at the world and he wants to get back at everyone, hence you get the lines, you got your rules and your religion all designed to keep you safe. He said that he tries to start off every song with something unique to the character. Think about all those riffs that I played at the top of the video. What set the music apart was the instant recognizability. Rock's catchphrase, Austin's Glass Shatter, Taker's Gong, Foley's Car Crash. With him, you saw involvement from the wrestlers in the music. I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys, when you were younger, thought that the wrestlers actually sang their song, which is crazy to think of, right? When someone would turn heel, they'd get a more slowed down version of their music, more dark and cryptic, and it wouldn't be a complete 180. They'd eventually go back, or they'd get a new theme altogether that would still fit. With that, a very important factor I mentioned at the top of the video was collaboration. With Johnston's music, he would bring in the right band to form a different and distinctive sound for the music. Saliva, Finger 11, Killswitch Engage, Disturbed, Kid Rock, Motorhead, to name a few. He made the randomest wrestlers have such good theme songs, and he was the one who populated the catalog of WWE's music. He would play instruments, and the ones he didn't know, he learned to play just enough so that he could get the theme done. Diverse characters, different shapes, sizes, occupations, rock, metal, pop, country, rap, punk, R&B, reggae. The guy made a Punjabi song, and it was really well done, and that's coming from a brown guy. The point is, chances are your favorite WWE theme song was done by Jim Johnston, but now things aren't the same. Here's what he said about the current landscape of WWE music.
I don't know what's happened. The music is so bad these days. It's like sound effects and noises and stuff. It doesn't have anything to do with the characters and the storylines anymore. And that's
talk your shit.
That's the essence of this business.
Because you know,
is characters and storylines and that's currently lost. I don't get it.
Johnston was released in 2017 after 32 years with the company, and it was a random release that really didn't have any rhyme or reason to it. He himself said that his and Vince McMahon's relationship had drifted apart, and as the company was changing away from the rugged sounding music to a more 2010s hip hop, pop, and polished sound, the creators of that sound were the band CFOs. In 2014, they joined the WWE.
Look at how they look. Of course they do.
The first time that WWE had hired music producers from the outside, because normally they choose to do everything themselves. If you guys remember, in 2012, the Raw theme song was Tonight Is the Night. That was the group's musical debut for the company. Their biggest hits were AJ Styles' Phenomenal, Sasha Banks, Shinsuke Nakamura, Bobby Roode, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Becky Lynch, among others. That whole NXT generation was carried by them. But when they came in, there were complaints of their music lacking originality as well. But you do have to give them credit. The group, while obviously lasting much less time than Johnston, did a good job and have some music that really sneaks under the radar. Johnston did have some tough music as well. While Johnston usually intended on making a full song, something that would basically land in a playlist and you could play every day, CFOs were extremely reliant on looping. They'd usually make one verse, one chorus, and then loop it for the entire song. People sometimes act like they didn't create good music. They were paid to create a crowd-popping loop, and they did that. At least they had individuality and recognizability. Johnston looped as well, but he looped 2 parts instead of 1, if that makes more sense. During their time with the WWE, they had 2 #1 singles on the iTunes soundtracks category, with Shinsuke Nakamura's Rising Sun and Bobby Roode's Glorious. They exited WWE in 2020 due to issues with their publisher, and what WWE has now done since CFOs is no longer there is change a lot of those songs with whatever they can basically fill them with, because obviously they don't want to pay for them. In come Def Rebel, who have had some good music, but it's fair to say in the entire musical library and out of the music producers that the company has had, have the most unoriginal sounding music. A lot of the time it's the same synth with every song. Music doesn't have identity. It's a fast-paced instrumental, very reliant on heavy guitar chords or the off hip-hop beat. No vocals, and when there are vocals, they're random sound bites that don't resonate with the wrestler. It's not fair to say that they haven't done a good job, but they've missed a lot more than they've hit. For every head of the table, there's a Watch Me and 10 other uninspiring songs. And fans have vocalized this a ton. The other problem is when a theme does start to stick, it becomes synonymous with someone. It gets changed out of nowhere to the point where no theme song is safe anymore. The complaint in the current era is everything sounds too similar, and a lot of the instruments are the same. And Jim Johnston had generic songs too. Let's not act like he didn't, but the skill they've come to now is tough. It's also hard that they have such tough acts to follow up. There are some themes that do stand out in the WWE, but they're few and far between. I've really emphasized it in this video. WWE lacks an original sound, and that's just not a consensus by the fans. Former composers are saying that as well. They lack collaboration. As far as their reach in the mainstream, which was once ridiculously high, today there's a lot of artists who mention wrestling and wrestling stars in their music. There's been a few wrestlers to be prominently featured in music videos and even get their own songs. Some themes have transcended wrestling and by many non-wrestling fans can be identified in an instant. But there's a huge difference in what theme music and their general connection used to be and what it is now. For over 3 decades, WWE had an incredible track record when it came to their in-house music. But in recent years, the decline in care and quality has really been lost. As of the recording of this video, it feels like we've seen the peak of WWE music and collaboration. Superstars and overall hype, it's all died down. The resources put into the music by the company are almost non-existent, and they can do that, but they choose not
That's
to.
so sad.
The music produced for a majority fails to leave a lasting impression and feels soulless, flat, and lifeless.
Oh, that's
It
so
sometimes feels like when they need a
sad.
new theme, they don't look who the theme is for. They just take out drum track 11.wave and they put it out.
Oh,
WWE
no.
themes just lack a lot of what made it special, and the fall of WWE music is simple. They don't allocate enough resources to the music. There's a failure to understand who these theme songs are being produced for, and it seems like it's all assigned at a random order. For fans of the WWE, music was very influential in their original taste of music, as crazy as that sounds. Listening to it introduced them to a different genre of music, different artists, from pay-per-view themes to bumper themes and promo packages. Fans would listen to WWE music unironically. When you look at the 90s, it shows you just how much music resonated that fans were eager to buy albums and own it for themselves. WWE music has fallen down a hole of parody. Music producers like CFOs and Jim Johnston are dearly missed for the company, and for a company that used to prioritize music, it seems like that's the least of their worries right now. The company just lacks a signature sound. WWE and the music they produced had incredible heights that literally launched the promotion, and as time wore on, they reached such a high quality of music only to come spiraling down. There's so many different versions of themes, so many pieces of music out there by the company. now failing to find that same magic. Maybe it's just a microcosm of what music has become, and maybe it's just a rise and fall with the sport of wrestling on its own. As they say, when words fail, music speaks, and right now, WWE's music is dead silent.
That's really sad. I have to admit, there are some old things that make you want to go and like try to find them so you can listen to the whole thing. Just based off the pop, just based off of the drop or whatever. And he said something about how he always does like a unique entrance for every wrestler or whatever. Cause you know, some producers, they have like a signature sound or whatever, but I noticed that a lot of his entrance themes or the themes that he makes for people, they all sound very, very unique, which makes it like even better because it's like, okay, none of this shit sounds copy and paste. You know, everything sounds like something that he actually took the time to like maybe get to know the person or pay attention to their personality or whatever. And he kind of like curated a sound that fits so perfect with that wrestler. So that's really sad to see like the music is trash. But all right, y'all, that's gonna do it for this reaction. Make sure to leave some likes and comments down below, and I will see y'all in the next one. Toodles.